somebody stopped me and said nice shirt, which was all common. But then they proceeded to tell me that they used to, I think, be in the D.A.R.E program, which I don't know if that meant they just were around when D.A.R.E was coming around to schools and saying, or they were actually a part of it. Because that's a good ass question. Like, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the um the etiquette expert. What the people that worked for the people that came and were part of the D.A.R.E program? What was your job? Did you work for D.A.R.E full time? Were you a W-2 employee? Like,
There's no one. It
anyway,
had to be a part time.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
I guess you can volunteer for D.A.R.E and thing. But anyway, so let's get to this user at Jarlissa Nicole. They said D.A.R.E worked on Millennials very well. I don't know many people in my generation that are crackheads for real. We smoke a little weed, drink a little drink. Y'all might pop a little fun pill. I don't know about that part. But the generation before and after us, baby, they love drugs. They'll do anything. They don't give a fuck. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of loading on whether this person is actually oh yeah, I get no, they said millennials. So yeah, so the person millennial, and this is their sentiment on drug usage in the age range for the age range or the era range of millennials. And I guess who better to ask than not better to ask, but what do y'all think about this? And I guess this is strictly a personal experience thing. I guess in theory you could do some level of data research to see what the drug usage is if they have good statistics on that. But yeah, I guess in your general, what did y'all experience when y'all were coming up? In I guess from people in y'all peers, do you find this to be true, or do you think they're a bit off the mark? What do you think, Ghost?
I am like the worst, absolute worst person to ask. But I don't know. I mean, for me, the only drug that I don't even say been around, but known people in my age group to take is weed. Beyond, but again, I really don't count because I didn't go to regular high school. And when I was in college, I was boring. I didn't go to parties. I commuted, worked a couple of jobs, and yeah, so I was never turning up like that. So like again, I don't really count. Well, I mean, to some extent, I think it's true enough. I mean, weed has kind of become super popular, but I guess I'd say at my general age range, there's still kind of a stigma around being a crackhead, doing cocaine, meth, all the crazy hard stuff. Like you'll still have people that do it, but it's not like widely and readily accepted and all that. But uh, I can't really speak to what's the generation before millennials. Is that boomers?
Oh,
Uh,
X.
That's X. Okay, I can't speak for Gen X, but I know Gen Z. I think is probably, yeah, more what pills like Xanax, lean,
that lean.
definitely weed. I couldn't speak to like the harder stuff, crack and all that. I think there's still kind of a stigma around that, like crack and
You think
heroin.
there's a stigma?
I don't. I'm guessing, bro. I'm not around the crowds that would be heavily involved that I would know, but
I think you're still inundated with society enough to know that there's a stigma around some of these harder drugs, harder substances.
not with
Jesus.
Gen X or whatever generation was the crack generation. I think that's Gen X. Crack in the '80s and all that. But
Fair enough. Fair enough. How about yourself, Ace? In your experience, do you think millennials did stay away from harsh drug users, and would you contribute to D.A.R.E of all things?
Uh, in my personal experience, I I actually think so. Just based on, I have at least one anecdotal example where I know the person was directly influenced not to partake because of some. Actually, I don't even know if that was D.A.R.E though. It might have just been a commercial, one of those weird commercials. Don't do drug commercials.
Oh, this is
I think it
this is your
was
brain.
D.A.R.E.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs Friday type of thing.
Yeah. One of those type of joints. But yeah, no. As far as the program as a whole, like it is very difficult to try to figure out like if I perceived that my peers were less inclined to do drugs because of D.A.R.E. For myself, obviously, I really don't think D.A.R.E. would have made a difference because I because of our our upbringing, like.
Yeah.
But at the same time, D.A.R.E. did provide some base level, not, I mean, at least naming of drugs that I'm sure I wasn't aware of prior, and maybe that could have helped with awareness. But then again, I didn't get prompted to do any drugs, so I don't know. Like, I don't know. It did like it wouldn't have had an effect on me. Like it wouldn't have changed anything. Um, and then for my peers, do I think it's possible outside of my one anecdotal example. It probably didn't have that much of an effect. I don't know. This is tough. This is tough. I think this is something that requires some very rigid statistical analysis because
I mean,
this is like
I'm just asking you. I'm just asking in your experience. If your experience dictates that there wasn't a lot of drug usage going around, then that's fine. If there was, then that's fine too. I'll say for myself, yeah, but I guess this part does become a bit of subjective. Yeah, I would actually say quite the contrary because I, coming up, were around a good amount of folks who I don't want to say with the culture at the time, but when that like when that like Danny Brown, Schoolboy Q, Hard Future era was coming around. I mean, why? Like that was kind of culture. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna cap. And obviously, even Future. Once you if you go a little further than that, and then Juice World and all these guys. Yeah, I think it was while Dare definitely had some level of influence in the fact that people remembered it and maybe still had some merchandise and clothing. The problem with Dare for me, Dare didn't scare people. And maybe I have to go back and like really look at some of the material that they used, but Dare didn't scare people. Dare was just like awareness, like, hey, like, dare to don't do drugs. If you really want to prevent people from using being a user, you have to scare them. You have to like bring on somebody off the streets that used to deal in dope and dang, I was gonna say something Snowfall related. It was a spoiler.
I'll do it.
Anyway, I obviously caught myself. Anyway, you gotta bring in somebody that's been through it and their life is in shambles now. You gotta scare people. They didn't really scare people, in my opinion. And yeah,
Well,
you mix that.
I
So I
do.
was gonna say, you mix that with again a lot of the artists that were coming up in the 2010s eras from like 20, I would say from 2011 to like 2014, 15, like that was kind of the was being pushed. So I mean, I guess you can say it might have worked early on and or later on in life. I don't think the are people that are around 30 years old are heavily consuming anything. But when they were in high school and early college, I think they were on board with that. But yeah,
That's a great point about not scaring people. But I do remember the I do remember two things actually, and I'm pretty sure I can attribute these to Dare, which were the examples of people that got lung cancer from smoking and like had to use the tube for to speak, and like the tube in their throat thing, like they can't
I
speak
remember
anymore.
those commercials. I don't think that was Dare though. I could be wrong, but I feel like it was a different entity.
Okay. Um
Also,
but yeah.
while it could be included there, I'm not necessarily including cigs. I don't think people after a certain age are using cigs like that.
Well, I mean, if that was Dare, if that was part of Dare, if it was part of Dare, maybe that was
Well,
part of it. But
I think just because they got harder to access, the cigarette companies were forced to like put all these disclaimers and really make it hard for younger people to get into. And also, vaping and e-cigs came around.
yeah,
That's
that's
why
true.
that's
Yeah,
why that
the
kind of got
vape. Yeah,
phased out. I guess the
yeah, that's
commercial
true.
with the guy with the throat thing, I can't even do a good imitation of it. Was kind of like scary. You don't want to end up like him, but
Yeah, but no, and then the other one was to the chewing tobacco. I'm almost 100% positive that was Dare because I don't remember seeing that anywhere else. Or like people would use that and end up having to just get their jaw removed, like their lower half of their lower jaw removed because of the whatever that stuff does to your jaw. Um, and that like that's probably the closest thing I. That's probably like the if there was a drug that was or any type of drug that was going to tempt me, it would have been chewing tobacco just because as a kid like it seemed like gum, and then you see baseball players chewing it, and the baseball players seem cool, so but seeing the those examples definitely was like, okay, this stuff is dangerous, like there's absolutely no way I would ever do this. So yeah, to your point, if Dare did fail, it probably was because of a lack of just very disturbing examples of people who got strung out on these drugs. And um I mean, it's probably worse to show examples that lived but had these crazy bodily deformations because of it. um what was I gonna say? And yeah, like if there were, I mean, if there was, I guess even if there was a like new iteration of Dare, it could
well, there
work.
still exists.
Oh, I didn't know it still existed. But it doesn't seem
Yeah,
to have
I
its
was thinking
presence in the
about
school as much.
maybe not so much. 'Cause I was thinking about, cause we definitely talked about Dare before. Maybe they're just more of an online presence. I remember, I think the last time we talked about them, they were kind of beefing with the writers or just the people behind Euphoria. They were saying that
Oh
it was spreading
yeah.
a bad message to the youth.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it whatever. Like even if it does exist in its current iteration, like if there is any
Oops.
thought that it's failing, they probably could incorporate some of those scare tactics to to get kids, like to just get an impression in kids' heads. It's not gonna work once they're in like pretty much middle school years. The kids are done. Like they're not gonna get influenced by Dare, I don't think. But elementary school, like you could plant some pretty permanent like scars in terms of
Dog, the way you're phrasing is crazy.
yeah, preventing kids from wanting to do that stuff. I think that's the age.
Brainwash them from when they're young. Got
You
it.
definitely got to get them when they're young. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know how influenced super young folks are these days to start using certain things. Um, like you're talking about that chewing tobacco example. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think anybody these days is worried about that. Like chewing tobacco. Psh, psh, psh. You got if you
I
want
mean,
to.
I knew a homie that did the chewing tobacco.
Well, I'm not saying like literally nobody, but these days kids are on these vapes and these type of things. That that
That's
that's just
true. He actually
that's
did
just
stop to
that's just not much of a
use
concern these
vapes.
days. Yeah, if there is still out there, yeah, you definitely got to start young, and you definitely got to really put the fear of God in these young folks that they don't, so they don't become users. But yeah, I don't totally dismiss what this person said. I think if their experience they seen as people got older, they didn't really consume that much or use that much, then there's nothing really to complain about that. But if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.